Welcome to Left, Right, and Center, where we dissect politics from every angle. No bias, no filters, just real analysis. I'm your host, and today we're diving into a story that's lighting up headlines and dividing opinions. Senate blocks bill to bar transgender athletes from women's sports. On March 3, 2025, the U.S. Senate voted 51 to 45 to block the Protection of Women and Girls in Sports Act, a Republican-led push to ban transgender athletes from women's and girls' sports at federally funded schools. The vote split strictly along party lines. Every Democrat against, every present Republican for, falling short of the 60 votes needed to beat a filibuster. This comes after the House passed at 218 to 206 in January, and President Trump signed an executive order in February restricting transgender participation in sports. This isn't just a policy debate. It's a cultural flashpoint. Republicans say it's about fairness and protecting women's sports. Democrats call it discriminatory overreach. And in the middle, a tangle of science, ethics, and practicality. Why does this matter? Sports are a cornerstone of American life. 500,000 NCAA athletes, millions more in high schools, and this fight touches identity, equality, and competition. Public opinion leans against transgender women in women's sports. 69% opposed in a 2023 Gallup poll, yet fewer than 10 transgender athletes compete in NCAA sports. So, is this a crisis or a distraction? Today, we'll break it down from three angles: the left's push for inclusion, the right's defense of tradition, and the center's search for balance. We'll dig into history. Think Title IX and Cold War doping scandals. Look at real-world examples and ask the hard questions. Who's right? Who's hurt? And where do we go from here? Stick around, subscribe, and let's get into it, because the truth is never one-sided. From the left, this Senate vote is a win for equality and rejection of fear-driven politics. Democrats, like Senator Tammy Baldwin of Wisconsin, argue that barring transgender athletes from women's sports isn't about fairness. It's about discrimination masked as concern. Baldwin said on the Senate floor, "I trust our states, our leagues, our localities to make these decisions without interference from Congress." The left sees this bill as federal overreach, stomping on local control and targeting a tiny, vulnerable group, transgender kids and young adults who just want to play. Let's look at the numbers. NCAA President Charlie Baker testified in December 2024 that fewer than 10 transgender athletes compete across 500,000 college students, less than 0.002%. In Michigan, the High School Athletic Association reported just 2 transgender girls out of 170,000 athletes in 2023. The left asks, where's the crisis? They argue this is a manufactured culture war issue, amplified by GOP ads in 2024 that painted transgender athletes as a threat to girls' dreams. Post-election, X post celebrated the Senate block. Finally some winning, one user wrote, with hashtag trans rights trending, reflecting relief among progressive voices. Search hashtag trans sports ban on X, and you'll see the raw jubilation yourself. The left's core argument is inclusion. Sports aren't just about winning. They're about belonging, mental health, and growth. Studies like a 2021 UCLA report show transgender youth face higher rates of depression and suicide, and exclusion from teams worsens that. Senator Brian Schatz of Hawaii called the bill inventing a problem to stir up a culture war. Democrats point to states like Maine, where the Education Department doubled down on anti-discrimination laws after Trump's executive order, saying, every student deserves a safe and equitable environment. What about fairness? The left leans on science, acknowledging the right's focus on elite cases but pushing back. They cite a 2021 British Journal of Sports Medicine review showing transgender women on hormone therapy lose significant muscle mass and strength, 5-10%, after a year, narrowing the gap with cisgender women. Critics say these studies are small, often under 50 participants. But the left counters, why ban kids over hypothetical advantages when so few even compete? They also flag enforcement risks. Genital exams or chromosome tests for girls who look too good, as invasive and humiliating. Representative Suzanne Bonamici of Oregon warned, this opens the door to harassment and privacy violations. Historically, the left ties this to Title IX's evolution, passed in 1972 to ensure equal opportunity. It's been expanded under leaders like Biden to include gender identity. Trump's rollback and this bill feel like a step back to them. They'd rather see leagues craft nuanced policies, not blanket bans. The question they leave us with, why are we punishing kids for being themselves instead of F9 ing real inequities in women's sports, like funding or media coverage? Here's one for you. Do you think inclusion trumps competition, or are we missing the bigger picture? For the right, the Senate bloc is a gut punch to fairness and a betrayal of women's sports. Republicans, like Senator Tommy Tuberville of Alabama, the bill's sponsor, frame it as a fight for girls who've trained their whole lives, only to lose scholarships or podiums to bigger, faster, stronger males. Tuberville asked Democrats, how would you feel if your daughter lost a shot because of this? Senator Susan Collins of Maine, a moderate, echoed, this is a matter of fairness and safety. On X, posts fumed after the vote. Biology versus politics strikes again. One read, with hashtag Save Women's Sports spiking. Check X yourself. Search hashtag trans sports ban for the unfiltered outrage. Their argument hinges on competition. They point to cases like Lia Thomas, the transgender swimmer who won an NCAA title in 2022, or two trans girls dominating Connecticut track meets in 2018 to 19. These aren't hypotheticals. Cisgender girls lost spots, sparking lawsuits and outrage. The right cites studies like a 2021 Sports Medicine Review showing transgender women retain some strength and endurance advantages post-transition, even with hormone therapy. Think 10 to 20% above cisgender women baselines. They nod to the left's hormone data, but argue it ignores bone density or skeletal advantages baked in from puberty. Safety is another angle. The right imagines a 6 feet 2 inches transgender volleyball player spiking against smaller girls, risking injury, or a wrestler with male bone density pinning opponents. They argue Title IX, meant to protect women's opportunities since 1972, is being twisted to favor a tiny minority, 0.002% of NCAA athletes, over the majority. This is an abstract. Lawsuits from cisgender athletes, like those in Connecticut, claim lost medals and scholarships, fueling the GOP base's fire. The right sees this as common sense, not hate. Public opinion backs them. 69% oppose the transgender women in women's sports per Gallup 2023, and they lean on that. Trump's executive order was their win. The Senate bloc, a loss. Their question, why sacrifice girls' dreams for an ideology? So, what do you think? Is biology destiny in sports, or is this overblown? The center steps back, asking, can we protect fairness without excluding anyone? This Senate vote, 51 to 45, shows a polarized mess, but the center wants compromise. They see merit on both sides. The left's right. Transgender athletes are rare, less than 10 in NCAA, 0.002%, and blanket bans feel heavy-handed. The right's got a point too. Biology can tilt the field, and girls deserve a fair shot. So what's the data say? Science is murky, and both sides cherry-pick. The 2021 British Journal of Sports Medicine study found testosterone suppression cuts transgender women's strength by 5 to 10% after a year, but they often start 20 to 30% above cisgender women pre-transition. Post-hormones, the gap shrinks but doesn't vanish. Small studies, under 50 participants, leave gaps. A 2023 Journal of Athletic Training Analysis adds nuance. It's sport-specific. Swimming's power-driven. Soccer's skill-based. The center digs deeper. A 2024X thread from sports scientists. Search hashtag transathlete data. Note skeletal advantages, like wider shoulders, persist, but their impact varies. Why not tailor rules by sport, not a one-size-fits-all ban? Real-world tests exist. The International Olympic Committee lets transgender women compete after 12 months of hormone therapy and testosterone below 10 mol/L. Since 2004, no trans woman has medaled at the Olympics. Suggesting inclusion doesn't break elite competition, but college and high school aren't the Olympics. Developmental gaps hit harder. Trump's executive order already forced the NCAA to bar transgender women unless assigned female at birth. Yet states like Maine resist. Enforcement's a mess. Birth certificates? Blood tests? It's clunky. The center also probes perception versus reality. Lia Thomas and Connecticut runners grab headlines, but most transgender athletes don't dominate. Stats from high school leagues show them placing mid-pack, not first. Outrage outpaces evidence. So what's the F9? The center suggests a 2-year hormone threshold for varsity or scholarships, aligned with IOC standards. It balances biology and access, though testing costs could hit $500 per athlete annually. Other ideas: separate divisions, logistically tough, adjusted scoring complex, or co-ed leagues where strength gaps shrink, think archery. Historically, Title IX adapted. Why not now? The center's question: can we craft fair rules without alienating anyone? What's your take? Could a compromise like this work, or are we stuck in the extremes? So where are we? The left wants inclusion, the right wants fairness, and the center wants both. Science says biology matters, but isn't black and white. History, like Title IX slow expansion, shows rules evolve. Real kids, trans and cis, are caught in this tug of war. This debate's not fading. Lawsuits will pile up, policies will shift, and opinions will swing. States are already split. California's bolstering protections. Texas is doubling down on bans. The NCAA is rethinking its rules, and courts might settle it. X is ablaze. Hashtag transports ban shows a divide in real time. So what about you? Should trans girls play in women's sports? Does fairness outweigh inclusion? How do we enforce it without chaos? Your stance shapes this fight. It's not just policy, it's people. Drop your thoughts below. Tell us where you land and why. Subscribe for more, and stay tuned for our next dive into the issues that define us. This is Left, Right, and Center. See you next time.